Hello everyone, in today's video I have the extremely strong Danish Gambit. This is a very powerful opening weapon where you sacrifice 2 pawns early on for domination of the center while black lags behind with literally no pieces developed. You will consistently get attacking positions and also very tricky ones as well, and especially at the beginner level this opening is an absolute monster. As usual I have timestamps for each of the variations and let's get right into it. Alright, so it comes after you play pawn to e4, black plays pawn to e5, and you play pawn to d4. This is the center game, at which point black will capture most of the time anything else and you just get an advantage, and now you play pawn to c3 here. Now, in the vast majority of games, black will accept the gambit and capture on c3, however, they do have 2 pretty good ways of declining, which I will take a look at. The first one is pawn to d5. This is the Sorenson Defense, counter-striking in the center, at which point we're going to take their d5 pawn, they recapture, and now we take their d4 pawn, and because we have this isolated pawn here, black's best try is attack it with knight to c6 here. We will defend, knight to f3, they can try bishop to g4 to pin our knight to our queen, and one little trap they can fall into is after we block with bishop to e2, black may think they can win a pawn with bishop takes on f3, we recapture, and now queen takes on d4. I have sprung this trap many times, but we win with bishop takes on c6 check. Now their queen is undefended after they capture, and yeah, we're just up a queen here, we are completely winning, so that's a nice little mini trap, but most of the time, black will just long castle here, at which point you're going to go knight to c3. Attack their queen, they don't just want to move it away, they're going to play bishop to b4 here, pin the knight, at which point you can just castle, get out of the pin, and after they trade on c3, you just have a great position here. Now all their pieces are staring at a defended pawn, and you potentially even have counter-attacking ideas with rook to b1, now their king is on the open b file. So that was the more common way to decline. The other one they can often play is queen to e7, and I say often, but this actually comes up very rarely. However, it is pretty good. What you're going to do here is you're going to capture on d4, they capture on e4 with check, and you simply block with bishop to e3. And how most of the time this will go is black will play a move like knight to f6, now you can play knight to c3 to attack their queen, they will play bishop to b4 to pin you, now you simply develop knight to f3, and most of the time here, black will just castle, at which point after you play a move like bishop to d3, you're doing very well here, but if they do play knight to d5, which is the engine's top choice, to try and start getting in everybody's business, you can just play like queen to d2 here. Just defend everybody, and after like captures, you'll simply play bishop to d3, castle, you are doing great here. So that's how to handle both of the main declined variations, but now let's get into the more accepted ones with d takes on c3 now. What you're going to do is not recapture, but instead play bishop to c4. Tempting them to capture again, and in the majority of games they will, which is the most common move. If they play something else like knight to c6 here first, what you want to do is not recapture, but instead play knight to f3. Just keep on developing, keep on making improving moves, tempting them to capture once again, and if they do, you can just take back, and more than likely, this is just going to transpose into one of the main Danish Gambit variations, and if they resist again with like something like pawn to d6, now is the time I'd recommend to capture back on c3, and I just have a very good position here. You're going to castle, maybe it's not really a Danish Gambit position, but you are doing very well here. But like I said, most of the time they will end up capturing once again, and now you capture back with your bishop. Now, what is going on here? You're down 2 pawns, but you also have 2 bishops that are completely storming the board. And what black tries to do in pretty much all of their best variations is immediately try to get their bishop out, try to get their knight out, and try to castle. Either castle first or try to force some kind of queen trade. Now, their main move here is bishop b4 check. I'll get more into this, but first, you also have to know this one line, which is pawn to d5 here. This is, I think it's called the Schlecter Defense. I don't really know how to say that, but what black is doing here is after you capture on d5 with our bishop, black can go knight to f6 here, attack our bishop, and more than likely this is going to force some kind of endgame, and the endgame I'm talking about is bishop takes on f7, king captures, queen takes queen, bishop to b4 check, queen blocks on d2, bishop captures, and now knight captures. And while you can play this is the engine's absolute top choice, it's basically just an even endgame. If anything, it favors black, and honestly, I would not really feel comfortable going into this, mostly because it's just not very fun. Instead, I'm going to recommend a more dubious but much more fun line, knight to c3 here, defending your center, at which point black will almost always capture on d5 with their knight. If they play something else, like bishop at b4 here pinning, is their only other move that is really played, you can now get a very good position with queen to a4 check. A fork, but they can save themselves with pawn to c6, counterattack our bishop, at which point you're going to sacrifice an f7, they capture, and after queen takes on b4, this is now an even material position, but black's king is pretty awkward on f7, and you're simply going to play knight to f3, castle. You are doing very, very well here. But most people capture on d5 with their knight, you recapture with your own knight, and here is the extremely common trap. The most common move in this position by far is pawn to c6. But this is actually not a very good move because now knight to f6 check. Beautiful tactic. What you're doing is you're attacking their king. If they capture with their pawn, then simply queen takes, king takes, bishop takes on f6, fork, they block, bishop takes rook, and you're cleanly up in exchange in this position. You could argue the bishop could maybe get stuck, but it's not really going to get stuck. It's going to get out one way or another. You're up in exchange, and you are doing very, very well here. And also one little bonus, if they try like a move like king to e7 here, then bishop to a3, and you're actually just going to win their queen. So yeah, this line is completely losing for them. Their only way to get an even position back here is to play knight to d7, which I literally think was like the 5th most common move. Nobody knows this. But if you do end up getting this move, then you will simply play a move like knight to e2. They can play pawn c6, attack the knight. You'll just back it up to e3. You'll simply castle, and I think you're doing very well here. Engine gives a little advantage to black, but I don't really think there's much here. You still have this very strong bishop, and yeah. Alright, so that's how to handle the Schlecter, which is the very sad endgame line, but that's how to have a lot more fun in it than usual. But now let's get into the main variation with bishop to b4 check, attacking our king, and we're going to block this check with knight to c3 now, and black can now develop with knight to f6 here. And like I said, this is our plan to try and castle immediately, and here I'm going to recommend the extremely tricky move knight to e2. Not the engine's top choice, however, there's an extremely common trap they can fall for, and even if they don't, you're still going to get a very good position. The trap I'm talking about is if they capture on e4 with their knight, winning a third pawn we cannot capture because of the pin here, and what you're going to do is you're just going to castle, and even though you're down 3 pawns with seemingly no threats, you actually have an advantage here, because this threat is now here, so they're going to trade, knight takes back. If they capture again on c3, this actually also loses because bishop takes, black can try to castle, and now the typical move in these positions, queen to g4. Threatening checkmate, and straight up, it's forced checkmate. Black has nothing they can do to stop this. House will go something like pawn to g6, and now you simply rotate your queen to d4, and yeah, your queen is going to get in one way or another. You are checkmating. So that doesn't really work. Their other try is castles, but this also loses to knight d5. Attacking the bishop, it must go somewhere. Pretty much always that square is c5. Technically, there is one line here with queen to h4. Attack the bishop and prevent the queen from getting in. Nobody's going to play that. If they play that, they're cheating. They're using the engine. Report them immediately. So, because of that, everybody here plays bishop to c5, and you now win with queen to g4. Threatening this checkmate once again, and there's really no way they can stop it. If they try pawn to g6 here, you simply play bishop to f6. Attacking the queen, and short of sacrificing it, they will have to move it over, and now queen to g5, and this checkmate is literally just impossible to stop. They cannot do anything. Queen G7 is checkmate. They cannot do anything to stop that. And the other try here, pawn to F6, loses spectacularly to knight to E7, double check, king moves over, knight G6 now, sacrifice, pawn takes, queen H3 is a checkmate. So that is a very, very nice trap that you do want to watch out for. A lot of people are going to fall into that. But back to the main line here. If they are not going to fall in that, they're going to just castle here, at which point you're also going to castle. And now this is the position. Black's best and most common move is now pawn to D6 to start controlling the center. And at first glance, this might look bad. Engine is giving black an advantage. Black is also still up 2 pawns. However, you're going to have fun here with knight D5. Getting your knight into the center and opening up your bishop and actually forcing trades which are good for you. Every single piece in black's position is pretty much being attacked here. They have to take on D5. You capture back with your bishop, and here is the critical moment. What black has to watch out for is a move like knight to C6, because after bishop takes and pawn takes, you would now win with queen to D4. And this is literally just a fork. You're threatening checkmate, you're threatening the bishop, they have to, defend the checkmate. Queen G5 is actually their only move. Queen takes, you're up a piece, you are winning. Their other try they can do here is pawn to C6, attack your bishop, at which point the line I'm going to recommend is queen to D4 once again, attacking the bishop and threatening checkmate. Their only way to defend this mate is queen to G5. A surprising amount of people actually don't find that move, but I mean, if they don't play that, you checkmate, so they have to find that, at which point you're going to sacrifice your bishop on F7 for an extra pawn, rook takes, and now queen takes on B4. Now black here is only up 1 pawn, however they also have very awkward development. You still have an extremely powerful bishop and their pawn is hanging and weak. So I think you're going to do very well in this position, even though this is the main line, which does have a kind of stigma around it. And other than that, there is honestly not too much else you need to know to actually start playing the Danish Gambit. The last thing I want to show you is back in this position, what if they play something else than bishop to b4? Bishop to c5 here, something like this, just doesn't work. Bishop takes on g7 now, and the rook is trapped. That's why they have to play a check first, and yeah, you're just completely winning here. A better move would be something like knight to c6, and if they play this, I would recommend to once again just play a move like knight to f3, just make nice improving moves until something more important happens. Black will now play like knight to f6 attacking, and you can actually just castle here. They cannot capture the pawn at all, because then bishop takes on f7, king takes, and now queen to d5 check here. They are getting forked, and worse off, after they back up, you don't even have to take back immediately. You instead play rook to e1, and yeah, they're getting absolutely French toasted here. There's really nothing for them. Instead, they have some other tries here, but I mean, let's say bishop to c5. This also fails, despite it being the most common move, because e5 now. Attacking the knight, it will move to g4, and now the same tactic, bishop takes, king takes, and queen to d5 check. They're forked once again, and after king moves and you capture, you are doing very well here. Black now cannot castle, and yeah, you're just doing completely fantastic. Last thing I want to show you is back in this position. If they play knight to f6, the engine's top line here is actually pawn to e5, but after pawn to d5, this gets into a ton of chaos. I don't recommend this. Instead, just play knight to c3 defending, and after bishop to b4 pinning, you'll just play knight to e2 and transposes back into the main line. Alright, well thank you so much for watching. I know this was a shorter video, but honestly Danish does not need too much explanation. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you next time.